Mary. Okay, well, here we are again. We covered chapter 5 of Revelation last time, and we will move into chapter 6 today, but we're going to kind of move into it slowly because I want to try to get kind of a refresher of where we've been and where we're going. In fact, that's kind of what it says in the scripture. And as we go here, you know, we're leaving kind of the known waters and kind of moving into the unknown waters, some of the most unknown waters in the Bible. And my intention is not to change anybody's mind. I'm not here to say what you thought was wrong and what this is what you should think, because I'm certainly not qualified and wouldn't want that responsibility even if you gave it to me. What I hope to do is read God's word and give you what I understand about it, and then expect you to contrast and compare that with what you get out of the Bible, and then form your own opinion. So if you hear me say something, if I get excited and start talking loud, that doesn't mean I'm trying to make you think what I think. It's just because I get excited about it.
You're not John MacArthur.
Yeah. So that, with that disclaimer, you know, we left chapter 5 with the whole host of heaven praising and worshiping God and the Lamb. And the Lamb had been the only one in all creation found worthy to open the scroll which God handed him. And so we'll get into opening those scrolls today. But I want, first of all, to try to give an overview, climb up to 10,000, 20,000 feet and look at the whole landscape beneath us. Because what we're starting now is referred to by almost everybody as the tribulation. Not a tribulation, but the tribulation. And it's important for us to put that in sequence. And I don't mean chronological sequence. I don't mean it starts in 2086. But what we can get out of his word, I think convincingly, is the sequence of things. If we go back to Revelation 1:19, in the first chapter, the words are written, "Therefore write the things which you have seen, and the things which are, and the things which will take place after these things." That gives us a sequence. Doesn't tell us when it happens, but it does give us a sequence. There's a flow, first, second, and third, past, present, and future. Things that were, things that you saw, things that are, and things that will take place. So what are those? Past. Well, John was there during Jesus's ministry. He was there. He was with him. He saw the miracles. He saw everything that happened. Unfortunately, he was there. I don't know whether he's in the audience, but he was there at the time that Jesus was crucified and then resurrected. He saw all that. Those are the things he saw. He was a witness too.
Excuse me, Roy, can you let Larry in? He's trying to get in, but I think you have to let him in.
Yes.
He's gonna have to do it again. Oh, there's it. Mission granted.
Hey,
Okay,
Larry.
thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey, you're only a couple of minutes later than myself, so don't.
Well,
So the things that John had seen up to the point, basically, of the Holy Spirit coming to the apostles at the Pentecost, that started the church age. We move from things seen to things that are. And that's where we just closed off in Revelation. We're moving from the church age into the tribulation. So those are the sequence of events. I feel comfortable in saying that that's the way that we were expected to understand this. Now, at what date we move from one sequence to another, everybody's going to have to figure that out for themselves. And that's where all the differences of opinion come from, I think. So during the church age, we were given an overview of what was good, what was bad, what was ugly. Jesus gave commendations for those churches doing well, and he gave judgment and warnings to those churches who were not doing well. We talked at the time we were going through those that applies just as well to today's church as it is to those the churches of that day, and all the churches in between. So at the end of the church age, we move into the tribulation, and that's the sequence that we're up to now. The tribulation, the judgment period, started with chapter 4. It gave us the image of the judge and the jury, God sitting on the throne in heaven with the authority to cast judgment on the earth and mankind. Chapter 5 gave us the Lamb who was found worthy to open the scrolls and commence this trial, this judgment period. This tribulation, we started in Daniel, for those of you who came to those classes. And Daniel gave us a kind of a preview in Daniel 9:26. The words read, "And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined." If you'll remember back, we were talking about, Daniel goes into a detail about these 62 weeks, which started when they were exiled to Babylon. And then they got to come back, and then they got to rebuild the temple and rebuild the city. And those prophecies were so accurate, even with a over 400-year gap, that he predicted that almost to the day that Jesus would come into Jerusalem on a donkey. So very few people disagree with that part of Daniel's prophecy. He predicted in these words Jesus arriving, the Messiah, finally, after all the time that they had been waiting. And he also predicted his crucifixion. So we should be able to see from that the sequence that I'm talking about. And the people of the prince who is to come, to me, is obviously the Antichrist, the prince to come. And his people, his workers, his minions, his cohorts destroyed the city and the sanctuary in 70 AD. That's in history. It happened. So that's again a prophecy that was fulfilled almost on time and as expected. And there's been many catastrophes, wars, pestilence, earthquakes, floods all over the world. I mean, that's never stopped. It's still here.
Was that considered, that was under Nero, correct? That when they destroyed Jerusalem? Was it Caesar Nero was the guy who was
That is
kind of heading that up?
That is some people's theory.
I mean, like I said, during that time, that period. That it was
Well,
under
yeah,
Nero
in terms
that
of
happened.
the temple and the sanctuary was all destroyed during that period of time, yes.
That's what,
Um,
just make sure the history is correct.
Okay, then we go into Daniel 9:27. It says now, 9:26 covered up to the temple being destroyed and the major calamities befalling earth. 9:27, it starts, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. We already know that a week is a week of years, which is 7 years. So then he is referring to the prince who will come, shall confirm a covenant with many for a week, but in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. The Antichrist will be a world leader, will be someone who promises peace and tranquility, who gets who is put in charge by consensus of the world, not by force or not by violence. He will be elected, so to speak.
Probably loved, charismatic.
This week is a week of years, which is 7, and which we get later in Revelation. We'll get into in much more detail of the full period and the partial parts of the period. But in the midst of this period, this charismatic leader, who the whole world asks to be in charge, all of a sudden, in the middle of the 7 years, he outlaws all religion. He does away with all worship of anything other than him, and demands you recognize and worship him as God, or you'll be put to death.
This is something that I know the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod believes, that the Pope is like that sort of false prophet guy that is talked about. I think it's in Revelation 13 or 12. But they believe that because he basically, if you look at the Catholic Church, he holds that position as the vicar of Christ, or the person who's spokesperson for Christ. And so, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod believes that the Pope guy is, and if you notice, I think it's in one of the books. I'm not sure if it's in Revelation or in Daniel. The political leader, Antichrist, is basically executes that guy ultimately.
Yeah, well, you can go back through history, and there's been many persons that's been referred to as, oh, well, he must be the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Look, he's got a scar on his forehead.
Or a lot of, that was I think Gorbachev was a popular thing in the 80s.
But that's kind of one of the things that I want to try to get across today as we get into this, is that there's many people who have found their own evidence of the end times for decades and hundreds of years. And Clint and I was talking about this yesterday. I was around before the, all the series about the rapture and missing people. And, we have been trying to see the end times in every generation for 4 generations. I'm of the mind that when we read these words, we'll see that this is not just another guy. The Pope may have been liked by several people, but he wasn't elected by any other than the Council of Cardinals, who liked the smoke, and so he was elected by 12 people, not by the world.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. There's 2, but in the book of Revelation, there's 2, individuals that kind of lead to this culmination of a one world sort of global government, so to speak. One's religious and one is political. That's kind of that's what it seems like in Revelation 13. That's what they're saying. So there's 2 beasts, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there's many theories from many ages, and those kinds of things we're not going to sell.
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to stay out of the weeds of well, this guy may,
Right. No, I'm not pointing.
but
fingers.
the
It's-
sequence of things is
making
pretty
a
certain.
suggestion.
We can kind of understand the sequence of things.
Yeah.
Tying it to a particular event in history or a particular person in history is beyond the scope of our class here. But those things are interesting to
Yeah, like I
chase,
said, that's
chase
kind of,
down.
even
But-
to this day, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod still adheres to that belief system.
So,
Just throwing that out there.
so anyway, where we're at is at the middle of this tribulation period, the middle of this 3.5 years. If you don't get along with this new world leader, you're going to be in big trouble. Now we'll talk later on about who are these people who are going to be in trouble. Are they the church? Well, I think again, we're in a sequence, and when the tribulation starts, the church age ends. I don't think the church will be here during the tribulation, but that's a pre-trib version, which I personally hold, but you're welcome to develop your own. But but those people who are here are going to experience all the calamities and all the judgments that tribulation gives us. So let's talk about tribulations. If you do a search in the Bible for the word tribulations, it lists practically every book in the Bible. It's a word used many times in many places by many people in the Bible to describe many things. Job had a lot of tribulations. We all have tribulations in our Christian life. In fact, we're told that if you follow Christ, you will have tribulations because the world hated him and the world will hate you if you follow him. So tribulations is something, but we have a great tribulation, the tribulation, capital T tribulation. And I think that it differs from all the other tribulations. In Daniel 12:1, he words it this way. Now at that time, Michael, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people, will arise, and there will be a time of distress such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who is found written in the book, will be rescued. Jeremiah 37. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. And it is the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Revelation 3:10. Because you have kept my command to persevere, I also will keep you from the hour of trial, which shall come upon the whole world to test those who dwell on the earth. This was the faithful church, the church who had it right, the church that was doing what they should do. In Matthew 24, we're told, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time. Nope, nor ever shall be. Unless those days had been cut short, no life would have been saved, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. I like the way Mark puts it in, or Mark records it in 13:19. For in those days there will be tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the creation of God created until this time, nor ever shall be. We're talking about a major event. We're talking about an ending event. We're talking about something that is so overwhelming and over encompassing that and in fact, in Matthew 24:29, again, to the sequence of things in Matthew 24:29.
Interesting notification sound.
That means it's time to take pills.
Hey, I like it. That's pretty good, man. I like it. I'm digging it. That's pretty cool. I dig it. That's a good reminder, man.
Okay, Matthew 24:29, it's recorded. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven and the powers of heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven. Then all the tribes on the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Immediately, the apostles were looking for Jesus to return during their lifetime. It didn't happen. Generations have been waiting for Jesus to return for 2,000 years. It didn't happen. But when he says in Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation, you're going to see me. I'm going to be in the clouds. After the 7 years, immediately, I'm going to return. That to me puts it pretty much in sequence. And that's when how it's going to happen. Now, immediately, I don't, is that the second, 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, the next, I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be 2 more thousand years, or he wouldn't use the word immediately. But I can't, I can't prove that other than that's what I understand from it. So, that's where we're at. That's how we got here, and that's where we're at. Again, I'm not capable, and I don't think it would be productive for us to start trying to say, okay, well, I think this stopped here, and this stopped in 1928 or 42, right. And Israel became a nation, and 40 years later, one generation, that's when
people theorized about that over the years. I've seen it. Yeah. One of the pastors I got saved under he wrote a book called, I think, 88 Reasons for 1988 or something like that.
Yeah. And Y2K, obviously 2000 would be the time for
because there's going to be a great computer crash, and there's the event.
Yeah. So okay. So that's the way I've struggled and how to organize and present this, and that's kind of the way I'm going. And everybody's welcome to have a different opinion and offer it.
I was going to kind of talk about the whole idea of speculation. That's kind of, when you're doing that, it can create fear in yourself. And if you're not careful, it's like, let's live. It's God gave us. We're in the here and now. And so when you're like projecting, kind of like what you're talking about, saying, oh, this guy must be it, that kind of behavior, that can create fear. I've heard people say Assad was the Antichrist and all this, stuff like the guy in Syria. I'm like, I don't know. I see a lot of, speculative. I've seen a lot of in churches, especially in the United States, whoever the enemy of the United States is, he's the Antichrist, and a lot of stuff like that. I see a lot of that behavior going on in churches and stuff.
Yeah. So. And I found 2 verses that's kind of guiding me as I work my way through here by Jesus. Both of them were quotes from him, and I don't have the specific reference, but I think you'll all recognize it. Jesus at one point, because people were wanting a sign, they were wanting proof, right. They were wanting, hey, if you're really Jesus, if you're really the Messiah, then give us a sign. Right. Produce magic. I want to have proof. Right. When we tend to look for proof, we're a wicked generation. That's what Jesus said. You wicked generation. You don't want to take it on faith. You don't want to believe me. Yeah. You want me to prove to you who I am. It's not a good thing to ask Jesus for proof. Right. And then
another thing is all those miracles in comparison to what he was doing then in that time. He's already, loaves and fishes and stuff like he's already performed all these miracles. What more do you want?
And then the next quote that I'd use from Jesus was when he was talking to Thomas. Okay, here's my scar. I'm proving to you that I am resurrected. I'm here. Here's the hole in my side. Now, do you believe now? Well, blessed are those who will believe without seeing proof.
That's us.
So if you're seeking proof, Jesus himself says twice, don't do it. That doesn't.
It's kind of funny that he said that, because he was basically referring to us. I mean, not, over the church years.
It's hard not to fall into that. Yeah. It's hard to not want a sign. Come on, God, come on, just do it. So I know.
Or wanting to, when they're like in the midst of making a decision that's maybe sort of crucial, or if you do this, that Gideon kind of was guilty of that sort of thing.
Okay, so let's move on to the first seal. Verse 1.
Do you think it's difficult not to interject where you are in your life when you look at the Bible? I mean, I would think the people in Ukraine probably look at the book of Revelation deeper, are different than we do.
I mean,
It seems to be a kind of a normal thing for people to think where they are and where Israel is it interprets everything in the Bible, not necessarily. So,
I fully believe we all live through our own tribulation. You know, like I said, you search for tribulation in the Bible and it's in every book. You know, those people, the people in Africa, you go back through history, the Jews during World War II, millions being, I mean, tribulations are always with us, and each of us see tribulations differently. You know, the loss of your wife and the circumstances, nobody could deny that was not a tribulation, and a pretty great tribulation in your life. So we all suffer through tribulations.
or cross. Sometimes I think Paul would refer to it as a cross to bear.
Yeah, so some, you know, you say, well, I'm glad I'm not living at the end of time. But everybody has their own tribulation in their own time.
And that happens that way. Is if those people, you know, God will make sure he sees them through it.
Okay. Verse 1. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. Wow, the diversity of opinions. There are commentators that I've read that believe this is Jesus Christ.
I've heard that sort of expression.
And there are commentators who believe
thinks
that
it's
this
the
is the
Antichrist.
Antichrist. You can't get much farther apart than that. And they get it from Revelation 19:11, which reads, "Now I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war." That is Jesus. And he does have a white horse. But everybody that rides a white horse is not Jesus. So one can be true without the other being
Well, it
true.
talks, doesn't it? Man, I think in some translations, it's the guy conquering is bent on conquering. In other words, the dude, whoever it is, likes to make war, is just into making war.
Well, we'll get into that a little bit deeper. I believe it's the Antichrist, and I think that's the prevailing view. He carries a bow, but it doesn't say anything about arrows. So he's got a bow, but he doesn't have anything to shoot with a bow, or it's just not mentioned. But when you get into combat, we call it close quarters combat. You have a completely different set of weapons for close quarters. If you're going to assault somebody, you use a sword, you use a dagger, you use a mallet, you use something. You don't use a bow. A bow is when you want to stand back, and it's an indirect weapon. It's a strategic weapon. Strategy. I'm going to convince the enemy that you're going to die because I've got a bow. I can hit you long before you can get to me with your sword. So you better negotiate with me. If you want to survive this encounter, then you need
Where's
to
that white
submit.
flag?
You need to make me the ruler. I think this guy is coming on a white horse to offer, look how good I am. I'm on a white horse. Therefore, we relate it to a white hat. Well, if he's wearing a white hat, he's got to be one of the good guys. The bad guys wear black hats. So I think the white horse is the subterfuge to convince everybody that he offers peace and tranquility and happiness and one world government that satisfies all needs and makes everybody happy. And I got a bow, but if you submit, I won't need to use it. That's the way I kind of look at this vision. He's given that crown. He doesn't take it from anybody. He doesn't knock a current king down and take his crown. It's given to him. It's offered to him freely. I think this is who Daniel was talking about, who will make a pact with the world to supply what they want. And they will make him, give him a crown. Now, I don't think this particular guy on the horse, it's a representation of the beginning of the tribulation, that first 3.5 years. There's not much bad going on for the first part of the tribulation, because this guy, it's kind of indicated that there's not just one false prophet, there's multiple false prophets. But this is the final false prophet. This is the last white horse rider that's in charge now at the beginning of tribulation. Any other thoughts on the white horse or the first seal?
That's one of those verses that you can really interpret that. You can run with that in speculation and your own interpretation if you want.
Well,
In
yeah,
fact, most of the revelation you can do that with.
well, sure. Okay, verse 3. When he opened the second seal, I heard a second living creature saying, "Come and see." Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another. And there was given to him a great sword. This is the beginning of the judgments of man. And it's not someone killing them, it's pitting them against each other. It's causing enough dissension and strife. You give enough men enough reason. We have things going on in the world right now,
But
and
it happens
everybody
all the
thinks
time.
it's everybody else's fault.
That's
Nobody
sort of
agrees
all the time in the
that, you know,
United States.
what's causing these people to all of a sudden decide, well, I'm not living beside you anymore, and start wars just
That's-
because they can't agree on how to live as neighbors.
Well, you see riots and things like that. It happens all the time here in the United States.
The Matthew 24:7 gave us a preview of this. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be wars and rumors of wars. This rider on the red horse, maybe covered with blood, representing fire, and there's a lot of fire going on in Ukraine today. But this horse, the whole purpose is to create strife and war. And he carries a sword. It says great sword. Actually, a broadsword is the big sword fighting sword. The great sword is actually kind of a smaller sword. It's the dagger they carry in their belt that they stab you in the gut with after they get you subdued. But it's a sword nonetheless. It causes death. When he opened the third seal, verse 5, I heard the third living creature say, "Come and see." So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine." These sheets I brought, if everybody's had a chance to look at one, give us a chance to look at it. There are predictions for vast famines around the entire world for this year, next year, especially next year. And right now, none of the strategists worldwide has a solution. It's almost a given that next year there'll be famines throughout the world. You wouldn't think in this day and age, this modern society that we have, that wars or rumors of wars could disrupt the world supply of food to the point where there's going to be millions of people die from a shortage of food. But it's happening right now. And based on all the reports I'm reading and the senators that are studying it and all, as of right now, they don't have a solution. We don't have enough fertilizer in the United States to grow our crops. for next year. And we don't have the ingredients necessary to make the fertilizer. So we can't ramp up production of fertilizer here because we don't have the stuff that's necessary to do it with. And the people who does have it can't get it to us.
I laugh at our stupidity, not that I think it's great, but it's like, how we're stupid. As people, we're just dumb.
Yeah. Well, we're oblivious
We
to,
do really stupid things
we,
that hurt ourselves.
we,
How
and
about being a husband in the home, or are you talking about?
It levels up. It levels up and down.
we're so,
Exactly.
we're so confident in our own ability that we don't even consider that we're screwing up big time.
Well, a lot of that was the, 1700s, the age of enlightenment, this science sort of thing that, oh, we have this knowledge and we're superior to all the other creatures. Well, yeah, I mean, as far as creatures, knowledge and stuff like that, we got the, free prefrontal cortex and all this stuff, but we're not, compared to God, we're complete buffoons.
We're bacteria in the dirt compared to
Right.
God. But, and we'll have to get into this detail next week, but we have this false sense of security when we think we can solve our problems. And even if you don't think you can solve your problem, when you think, well, the mayor, he can solve it. Well, if he can't, the governor can. If the governor can't, the president can, if we can keep him awake long enough to think about it. So who is actually taking care of our problems? I don't know. that
I heard
anybody is.
a monologue by a comedian talk about, saving the planet. He goes, how conceited a human being thinks he can save the planet.
Or
That's
changing the
conceited,
climate.
Yeah.
Changing the climate is pretty conceited.
Yeah.
We can change the climate. Okay, we better
Good,
cut it
man.
off
We're
there
debating.
and start again next week.
Oh, wow.
Hey, we
Larry,
appreciate you guys
Barry,
being with us
I
online.
got those CDs.
Thank you for allowing
Thank
us
you.
to.
Y'all have a
Hey,
great
guys.
rest of your day.
Bye.